Okay, I'm going to show you here today how to set up a line graph using Google Sheets. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is open up a blank Google Sheet. You can go ahead and name it with your file. I'm going to set up right now my independent variable, dependent variable, just like we did with data tables with the question that's on your sheet, which is looking at the mass of different amounts of soap. Including the graduated cylinder's mass. Okay, so the independent variable is the variable that I changed that I'm controlling at the start of the lab, which is the volume. So we're going to look at different volumes of soap, and during the lab, I'm going to measure the mass of it. Okay, so that's my independent dependent here. Go ahead and put your data in. I'm going to show you a little trick here. Also, is that you can use this drag and drop option. So if I click on this, I can drag all the way down to 50 here. I'm also going to, just to make it neat, I'm going to go over here and center it. Okay, 50, 61, I have 72, 83, 94, 105. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stick a title in here, mass of different amounts of soap. Put the title in there, and I can go ahead if I want to make things nicer. I can increase the font, change the color of the fonts. In the data table itself, I could come up here and add boxes around it, increase the font so it's easier to see. I could even color code it. These are all the options that as soon as you learn, you should learn on Google Docs as well, because you can insert tables into Google Docs. Okay, so as soon as you have a data table, like I have set here, watch how easy it is to make a graph. Okay, how to make a graph for this is you're going to highlight the data. So I'm going to select A2 and select down. Now, when I did that, I had to take A2 and then hold my thumb down and then drag my finger over to the right and then drag my finger down. Okay, so I'm selecting all my data. You notice I did not select the title. I just selected the data, the independent variable, dependent variable, and the data that I'm going to graph. Okay, now I'm going to come up here to insert. Now you want to hit insert chart. Now insert chart. I'm going to use a scatter graph, scatter chart. Scatter chart. I'm going to plot my points in without a line. I could actually change it probably to a line graph down here. I'm going to stay with just the points. Okay. So now look at this. I have my graph done. So realistically, I can go ahead and move that graph over a little bit, have it done. Now, what I'm going to do is show you how to edit the graph after you have it done. All I had to do is select the data to graph that data. That's much easier than graphing and using graph paper, right? So what I'm going to do is I can double click on the graph and it'll pull up the customized chart editor. That's one way of doing it. The other way to do it is click on the three dots over here into edit chart. So as soon as you have this edit chart option, hit customize. I'm going to show you how to customize your chart. Okay. So the first thing is the chart style. What I have here, I could change the background if I wanted to, say I like orange. Okay. I wouldn't advise you doing that if you're going to print things out related to that. So other than that, that's about that you're going to do on the chart style. So I'm going to move down to chart and axes title. Now this is where I'm going to change my title, which is up here. And then also, if these did not come out, the independent dependent variable, I could actually insert them. So why don't I start with the chart title? But say for some reason I did not have this up. Okay, I could just double click on the title and it would bring me up my customized chart title. So the computers are smart. We're smart also. But so here at chart title, and here I'm going to go over and change this title. Why don't I make the title the same as the data tables title? So I'm going to come over, copy, paste. I'm going to come over here, double click on that. Change the text title here to that. Now I could change this, the font size, make it larger. Okay, right now it's chart title. I can make it larger. I'll go 20. I can change the color. I can change the alignment. Put it in the middle. Make it maybe blue like that. Okay, all those kind of things. And realistically, I can change the font itself also. There, okay. So next, I can go up here, and there's a drop down menu here, chart title. If I change it to horizontal chart axis, it's going to give me the volume, which is down the bottom, which is right here. Now, again, I think it looks good, volume milliliters, but again, if I wanted to change this up and make it a little larger so it's nicer to see, if I wanted to change the font type, the colors and all that, I can go ahead and do that. You're going to have to do that here. Show me that you can do this later on with things. So say that, again, I'm not in here in the chart editor and I want to alter this. Just double click on it. It'll pull it right up here, vertical axis title, mass and grams. Here I can go ahead and change the color. I can change the font size, the font type, all those kind of things. Okay, I can even center it, right? So I have that done. Okay, now with the series, the next one down is a series. Series is going to allow me to change the color of the dots, to add the dots, change the dots maybe to triangles if I wanted to triangles, the point size, any of that, those kind of things there. Okay, this is more helpful if I'm going to do a multi-line graph. Okay, so if you want to add a trend line, you can add a trend line here. Also, again, this is underneath where I had a series. Okay, so if I had a multi-line graph, I could pull down the bar and have different series, like when we do the alcohol, water, soda, soap, perfume, all that stuff evaporating. We're going to have 7 different series, 7 different lines that we can do. Unless you want to do it by hand, do it by hand too. Okay, so now I want to go down to legend. The legend, you'd only need the legend is if you are using again, a multi-line graph. So really, we don't need a legend in a single line graph. Okay, horizontal axis. Now this is, even though I just labeled the axis mass on the vertical, which is the dependent variable, and the volume on the x-axis, the independent. I can also make this, if you look at the graph, I'm going to close this out to show you. See how I got a lot of wasted space down here? I showed you how to do this by hand. We can also do this here. So again, if you want to get back to this, double click on this or double click on that or hit edit chart. Now I'm going to go all the way down or customize down to horizontal axis. Now the horizontal axis, what we're looking at right now, is this one, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. So I think the numbers that we have are really good. The one thing I'd probably like to do is maybe increase the font size so it's easier to see. So now the numbers are black. I could change the font type, the color. What do you want to make them? We can make them red on that. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing now instead on the vertical axis. So I'm going to hit vertical axis, and I can make them larger. Well, 18 is too large. Let's go back to the same number we had there, 16. We can change the color to red, just like we had a minute ago. Okay. So you can make them bold, italic, stuff like that as well. But this is where I'm going to change the minimum maximum value. So instead of starting at 0, why don't I start at 50 and we go to 105. So we can go to 120. We'll go 110, 50 to 110. Okay. So now when I do that, what you notice, it just changed on me. I'm going to close this out so you can see. The graph's now a better fit starting at 50 on that. Now the only thing that we need to do, it doesn't really look like graph paper. So we need to make and add graph paper to this. So if I go ahead and edit chart, hit customize, you go all the way down to grid lines. Now we can put grid lines on here. Now what we need here, why don't we go ahead here and actually add 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 lines in between here so that they can go up by 5s. Okay, so if I go to my vertical axis and I go to minor spacing, I'm going to count and add 3 lines. So if I add 3 lines in there, you can't really see them because they're kind of like bluish. So I'm going to go ahead and change the color of those two to make them a little darker based on that. So my minor grid lines, the minor grid lines are the small grid lines in between the numbers that are labels. The major grid lines are the numbers that are there. So I'm going to change the minor grid line colors. Why don't we change it to a kind of a reddish color there too. Okay, the major grid lines are red. No, we'll keep them. Let's try a different color. Let's go with maybe something like that. That's blue, too close to our line, right? Let's go. No, that's not dark enough either. Let's try. Okay, so there we go. So now we have 55, 60, 65, 70. We have lines in between there as well. We don't need, I don't think, vertical grid lines based on volumes of 5s and 15s because we didn't need that. Okay, so one thing I'm going to ask you to do in all your titles is maybe add your name on there too. So I'm going to put Tyler, Mr. Tyler, on your graphs so I know they're yours. Okay, when you do graphs for me. Okay, now say that we wanted this graph to be on a separate sheet. You can come over here and say move to its own sheet, and that will actually make it into its own sheet. So from here, if I wanted to print the sheet, I can hit up here, File, Print, and it only print my graph. But again, I don't know if you want to print your graph in orange with that, but that's a beautiful looking graph. Okay, I'm going to cancel that right now. Okay, so that's how you set up a graph using Google Sheets. Hopefully you learned something. If not, then again, play that back. You're going to practice on some things. Hopefully your peers taught you some things in the discovery zone as well. Okay, have a fantastic day. Thanks.